Welcome back to another episode of Silent Pals Go to the Movies. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hi, everyone.
And today we're going to be reviewing Mortal Kombat from 2021. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. MMA fighter Cole Young seeks out Earth's greatest champions in order to stand against the enemies of the Outworld in a high-stakes battle for the universe. Okay, first of all, I went into this movie. My standards were average. I wasn't really too invested in this movie. I just saw it as like, don't get your hopes up kind of thing. So with that, I'm going to start off with my pros. My first pro is that we have some characters like Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Sonya, Kano, the usual, the well-known characters from Mortal Kombat, the game. So that was nice that we got to see some familiar faces that we know we grew up with if you played the video game. Next, it was nice that the film actually held our hands and explained the tournament between the realms, kind of set up the story. Also, some backstory to some characters. Key emphasis on some. The highlight of the film for me was the beginning of the film. I was saying, hell yeah, we're getting a choreographed martial arts Mortal Kombat finally, but that was short-lived. And I guess I'm going to move on to my cons from here. My first con is why even have the character Cole Young, a made-up character, and even go as far as to make him a descendant of Scorpion, while at the same time overshadowing the long-lived rivalry between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, which to me is more important than making up an underdog who needed some fairy dust sprinkled on him and just to think really angry thoughts to unlock his hidden powers, which was just tough skin. So in that sense, I was more interested in the rivalry that we're creating between Sub-Zero and Scorpion in this movie than the character that we're focusing on, which was Cole Young. So I wish they would have stuck with Sub-Zero and Scorpion's story and had Scorpion come back after he got defeated at the beginning in Casper form, recruiting new warriors like Sonya, Jax, and others. This would have been a better story, having Scorpion act like a ghost Yoda and train the young champions to be prepared for Mortal Kombat or Mortal Kombat Jedis to face at the end Sub-Zero and his army in a real tournament, which to me it would have been interesting if they actually had a tournament between the realms and we saw the other realms combat too. But instead we got Cole, who is low on self-esteem and a badass, Sonya, who is told that she can't train because she might get hurt and she's not worthy, or because she didn't make the grade, but emo Cole did, which is totally unfair in my book. This caused me to take a double take, looking at how the script was written. Moving on to the fights. The beginning had the right idea, Mortal Kombat choreographed mixed with amazing panning shots and the blood. It was there basically like the game. This is what I wanted since the beginning, but instead I got a bunch of sparring fights, and at the end of the fights we got a weak effort to pull up a fatality from the games or quotes from the game. Okay, so I'll admit I did giggle at some parts and some quotes in the movie, but they were cheesy, so I was expecting that. But the fights, there was no blood, there was no broken bones till Kano ripped a heart out and someone basically got sliced in half by a metal spinning hat. That was it. I wanted something more like a Kumite from Bloodsport with blood and a tier fighting system between the realms. For those anime fans, think of Yu Yu Hakusho, if you remember that anime. This movie felt like it was two movies in one. The beginning with Sub-Zero and Scorpion's rivalry, and then the lame attempt to include all the others through the connection with Cole Young's character. So for me, this movie kind of was a letdown. So I guess with that, I'm going to pass it on to my friend Touly, see how he saw this movie and what grade he gave this movie.
For me, I thought the movie did some stuff well and some stuff not so well. I was sort of stuck in between. Things that I liked about the film: the fight at the beginning, which sort of just ties also very well to the story and relationship between Scorpion and his family, Scorpion and Sub-Zero. That was fantastic. I loved that opening scene a lot because I thought it would actually set the foundation for how the movie will proceed with Scorpion's revenge story, in a sense, to go after Sub-Zero, and just the way the two were combating. I thought it alluded to what I was expecting the movie was gonna sort of be in terms of the remaining fight scenes. It gave me hope and that was great. The opening scene just encouraged me to look forward to the rest of the film. And the thing too about that opening scene is it paid homage to some of the things that are known from the Mortal Kombat video game. Of course, with Sub-Zero already demonstrating his ice power abilities, the way they show Scorpion with his dagger-like rope weapon, with the way Scorpion entered the Hell Realm in preparation of someday confronting Sub-Zero once again in order for him to take him down. So I appreciated the nod to the game in that opening scene, just alongside how everything was handled and shot. It was very well done in my opinion. Now, from that point onward though, the film started to derail in many aspects. It's fortunate and unfortunate at the same time that a character like Kano, although his character was amusing throughout the film, I wished the way he acted, in particular to the outrageous sort of things that he came to know about Mortal Kombat, how ridiculous it is, how unfathomable the sort of situation was as things were getting explained to him. I wish the way Cole would have reacted would have been more aligned with how Kano reacted. I'm not talking about the whole joking sort of aspect. Sure, if Cole had some more personality or being very outspoken in terms of how he came to know what Mortal Kombat was, I would have liked that a whole lot more. Kano could have still been who he is as well, but I feel like Kano stole the spotlight because of that, and I don't think that's good from the standpoint of Kano wasn't supposed to have had more charisma than your main character Cole. It was just unfortunate that Cole's character took a backseat to a character like Kano. Like I said, I don't have anything against Kano, but I just felt like what Kano presented to the audience should have been what Cole had, especially from the standpoint that Cole was our main character and he was new to the franchise as well. So you need to be able to stick the landing with a character like Ko, if anything, and that didn't work. Like Sal mentioned, his powers, it was very underwhelming. I would have been personally okay if they just got rid of his whole body armor toughening up and absorbing energy and him wielding those two baton-like weapons. I would have been okay if they just gotten rid of that, and his power at the end really was to be the reincarnation of Scorpion. He just turns into Scorpion. That I would have been okay with, because as they said, he is part of the bloodline of that household. If he just turns into Scorpion later and that was it, I would have been on board with that, and then he just becomes Scorpion for the rest of the series, because it appears that they're gonna turn this movie into a series or something. At least, if I'm not incorrect in saying, they already have like 3 or 4 movies booked. Just get rid of the whole body armor thing and just make him Scorpion. That was my issue with that. It wasn't so much that, Cole became the embodiment of Scorpion. That didn't bother me, but it was just like how it led to that moment. The struggle that he went through, which was to me also very not believable. Seeing Cole go against Goro, who is a pretty strong character from the video game, that to me didn't make sense, because it didn't feel like his victory over Goro was believable given Cole's abilities at the time. Sure, he got his new power, but even his powers were like not very outstanding, no pun intended, if you guys are familiar with Mortal Kombat, because that is a term that they use to acknowledge how well you're doing. Things like toasty or flawless victory, which was also said throughout the film. Anyway, if Cole had fought against a character like Nataro, to me that would have made more sense, because that character is not one of the more well spoken about. That character doesn't give you the sense that she's as powerful as a character like Goro based on just the history of the Mortal Kombat franchise. Then I would have been more acceptable of Cole getting a win, and at the same time I would have been okay if he still lost, but maybe just been able to escape with his family. If he just had turned into Scorpion, that was his power, that would have been better. But him going one-on-one against Goro and coming out on top, I was like, no, that doesn't work for me. And that just really, to me, paints the picture in terms of like a lot of the other fights. They were either underwhelming because the fights didn't have setup, they were too short. The best thing that came out of most of the other fights were, to me, the fatalities, because they paid homage to the video game. I did appreciate that the movie was more gory than the original, and that their depiction of those fatalities, except for probably Kano's death, is pretty spot on. Seeing Kung Lao use his spinning hat to slice literally a flying woman creature by the name of Natara Gamera in half. That was pretty cool. To Kano ripping the heart out of Reptile. Even to Jax, who bashed the head of, again, that guy with the hammer who I thought was Shao Kahn, but isn't. I thought they did the fatalities well. Except, too, that they missed opportunities to commit to certain fatalities that wouldn't make sense. I'm going to bring up Jax fatality. The area where they fought, it was like a pit area. And if you guys are familiar with Mortal Kombat, pit areas are locations where you could send your opponent to their death via the sort of surrounding that they are in. So for Jax in that fight, they're very high up the ground. Basically, I thought Jax could have sent that dude tumbling down to his death. And if they wanted to keep Jax to doing his fatality as well, his personal fatality, which is from the game, him bashing somebody's head to pieces, he could have still done that and just show the body falling down afterwards or something. I don't know. But give us a little something there, because why would you have these two characters fight in an area like that if you're not going to make use of what that area is capable of doing for your characters in terms of the fight? But like I said, the fight was very short. There was no setup. They just zap all these characters towards the end of the film, which felt really rushed, to like different areas of the world, whether in Outworld or in Earthrealm. Again, the fights were just very underwhelming because there was just no payoff other than just seeing the fatalities themselves. And that really is due to how fast paced the movie was. And that to me is probably related to the movie trying to do too much. I felt like they were handling three things at once here. One, the whole Sub-Zero and Scorpion rivalry, to developing Cole's character, to Mortal Kombat itself, which actually wasn't depicted the way I thought it would be. It's supposed to be a tournament that takes place, and if one side, either Earthrealm or Outworld, becomes victorious 10 times, then they take control of both universes. But instead of getting this final tournament to determine whether or not Outworld would take control because they already had 9 out of the 10 wins, Shang Tsung, the leader of Outworld, at least based on this depiction of Mortal Kombat, decided, hey, let me just break the rules of Mortal Kombat and enter Earthrealm right now and kill all of Earthrealm's participants of this fight so that there's no 10th victory needed, and thus, by default, we win the tournament. Well, my logic behind that is, if you already won 9 of the 10 necessary battles, why are you going through this lane to get your 10th victory? You could just go through the tournament again and you are pretty much set in stone, because you should go in confident with how well you've done in the past. So they went this roundabout way of trying to show you fights instead of going through the tournament, and that to me was one of the most disappointing aspects to this movie, where it did such a great job at paying homage to aspects from the Mortal Kombat video games, to fatalities, to, again, some of the rivalries, to even some of the things that we did while playing the fighting game, such as doing the sweep attack over and over. I thought that was pretty hilarious, and for them to have acknowledged that was great, because I did stuff like that when I was playing the video game. So there were moments where they paid close attention to fan service, and I appreciated that. But after that opening scene between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, for the most part, the movie derailed, and it was just too fast paced, did not care about the main character. The fights were very underwhelming because there was no setup. Shang Tsung trying to break the rules of tournament, thus not making the tournament irrelevant, at least to me. Raiden, with his ability to do whatever he wants, even though he said he wasn't going to get involved because he can't, but then he's able to like protect everybody by zapping them into this world where it's like in between Outworld and Earthrealm. Like, why couldn't he do that before in order to protect the guys? Because Kung Lao would have been still alive. There's just like too many things happening, and I feel like instead of just making a hot pile of mess by doing too much, they should have just maybe focused on one thing, and that is the development of Cole's character. If you wanted a new main character introduced to the series, and by having him embodied Scorpion and not have him go the whole, again, body armor ability, then you're able to tie that in very nicely still to the rivalry between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and just build that up to the point where if you want to do a sequel or a trilogy, then you have at least established a main character that I can be invested in, and then the tournament itself, although it might have already started, can continue on in the second part. You don't have to have as many fights as you did in this film if they just are going to feel rushed. Just give me some very good fights that feels like they're a part of the tournament and they are meaningful. I had expectations of the film because because I saw how well they executed the opening scene. I think they even released like a 7-minute trailer before the movie came out, and unfortunately I saw it, which I tend not to do for movies because I don't want these sort of trailers to dictate how confident I feel going into the movie because they set expectations. But unfortunately, from seeing that trailer, my expectations were very high, and the movie, although it had a great opening, just faltered after that opening. So I would still say I prefer the original Mortal Kombat a whole lot more. The original Mortal Kombat is not as gory. It is more cheesy, but the thing that I have to give credit to about the original is that it stays true to the personality that it carried from start to finish of the film. Versus this new Mortal Kombat, the personality that it carries of it being a more serious type of tone, when you go that route, then execution of like the characters development, the story, all that stuff, they mean a lot more. Oh, you can't get away with some of the stuff that you could in the initial Mortal Kombat than you can in the film like this, because you're gonna have to be able to do stuff that convince me otherwise that what you're showing me is believable. So in the end, I'm gonna give this film a 5.5 out of 10. If you are a fan of Mortal Kombat, you will probably still enjoy it just because you'll be able to notice stuff that they took from the Mortal Kombat game and infused it here. And again, even giving you fan services in terms of how you played the Mortal Kombat video game, seeing some of the characters that you are aware of, some of the fatalities. But yeah, the story, the main character that they're trying to introduce as a new individual to the series, the pacing, it's all over the place. So I think for anybody who's not familiar with Mortal Kombat, you might find the movie a little confusing, but I think anybody who knows a little bit about Mortal Kombat, you should be okay with watching this film and still appreciate stuff about it like I did, but definitely thought it could have been a whole lot better.
Totally agree with you. This movie basically is for fans of the original movie. And I mean, the original movie is still better than this one. But if you saw the original, you might want to see this one, you know, like you said, for the Easter eggs and stuff like that. I will admit that the 7-minute trailer, that was clickbait. So I'm not really happy about that because also I saw it and I was really hoping the whole movie was going to be like the beginning. And after that, like you said, it just fell short for me. Same thing, character development with the Cole guy. Why even put the effort into changing his story? Why not just keep it simple? Like you said, be the next Scorpion. Just like take the cape, kind of like a superhero metaphor. Just take up the mantle. Yeah, this movie, I don't know what to say. If you're not a fan of Mortal Kombat, you're going to be like confused. Don't watch this. If you're a fan and you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it, but don't expect too much. My final grade for the movie is going to be a 5 out of 10. I guess that does it for this review of Mortal Kombat. Please join us next time when we're going to review A Quiet Place 2.
There's nothing left. People out there. People worth saving.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.